My name is Donnie Edwards, NFL veteran from the Kansas City Chiefs and San Diego Chargers. For the last 13 years, I've been taking our World War II veterans back to their battlefields to honor them and to give them closure.
Right before a swim, they test all your stuff out and they take a knife, and if it didn't cut hair, they took a rock and went.
You know, never pay attention to the odds. It's not really a tagline, it's what I thought of my whole life.
I mean, everyone who's read your books, they know about this vehicle here.
The way you get back up after you're knocked down can inspire all these people around you, or can do the exact opposite.
Follow your passion and you'll find your destination.
You gotta punch it right here. I'm Jack Carr, and this is service, sacrifice, and freedom through my eyes. Like, I knew I had these callings, and I listened to those callings for the military and for writing. So I don't know if everybody has that and just doesn't listen, maybe, or if they have to search a little while longer. I think everybody's probably different, but what's important is identifying whether you have those things, whether you know that calling, or whether it's something that you heard it but you didn't pay attention to it, or you put it aside, or you got to find it. You got to go out there and figure out what that is. But what's important is finding it. Right. You got to find it, otherwise you're just going to wander around. And it's good to have a contingency plans. I mean, I didn't really like any of my contingency plans. I always wanted to serve my country in uniform, specifically as a SEAL, and I wanted to write thrillers, write the novels that I'm writing now. Those are the two things I wanted to do. So as I transitioned, I did have some contingency plans, but my heart wasn't in those. Mm-hmm. So my heart is in the writing, my passion is in the writing, and my mission is taking care of my family. So both those things came together at the right time and place, but it was important to have these other things that if the writing thing didn't work out, and people love to tell you like the odds of being a New York Times bestselling author, just like they probably love to tell you the odds of being a professional football player.
Same with being a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, exactly. So the same kind of looks I got from people when I told them I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, with the same, it was kind of like, you'll grow out of it, kid. Like, that's what I got my whole life, because from age 7 onward, I was going to be a SEAL. And I got those same kind of looks from people at age, whatever, I was 42.
I mean, like, wanting to be a SEAL, you know, did anyone in your family service to this country? Like, where did all this come from, and why Navy SEAL?
Yeah, so it started, I think, with my grandfather, who was killed in World War II. So obviously I never knew him, but what I did know is that we had pictures of him in this plane, a Corsair, which is the gull wing that they would fold up like this, and he was a Marine aviator. So my dad would watch football on Sundays, and I was a remote control. So because it's like 1978, 79, 80, like you can't just flip. You gotta, a kid goes up there.
Yeah.
And so my dad would be watching, and we'd hit a commercial, and I didn't really care. Sorry to say, I wasn't really interested in the football.
Right.
I was interested because we had ABC, CBS, NBC, and one outlier channel. And that one outlier channel on Sundays would always have a war movie on. Mm-hmm. So I'd sit there watching the game with my dad, and then, he'd look at his watch, and he'd say, go. And he'd be watching the seconds tick down. We had 2 minutes.
Right.
So I'd run to the TV, I'd flip it to that one outlier, and I'd watch. And then he'd be like, turn it back, and I'd go back and sit down and wait until the next commercial I could run up and flip it again. But I saw in one of those, these guys climbing up over the beach, black and white film, putting explosives on these obstacles, and I asked my dad, hey, who are these guys? And he's like, they're frogmen.
Right before a swim, they test all your stuff out, and they take a knife, and if it didn't cut hair, they took a rock and went. And then
if it didn't cut hair?
Yeah, so you have to, if the instructor would go like this, it didn't cut hair, you take a rock, hit it on this rock and just scrape it, because then you had a lot more work to do that night sharpening it.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it kind of melted in, the rubber band kind of melted in. It's been in this case for a long time.
Oh, super
and then got
cool.
brought the Winkler
man,
blade, the Dom's blade.
Yeah.
Got this one right there, the Carambito right there.
See that?
That's the one from the first novel.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is the Skinner right here. That's the Carambito, so Karambit. This is the Hunter Skinner.
Oh, that's it right there.
So that's the Hunter Skinner from the third book, and that's the Carambito from the first book. It's in all the books so far, anyway.
Yeah. It's kind of like the logo that you use, right? Just like 2 of these,
exactly,
right?
2 of those, the Cross Tomahawks.
Cool, yeah.
This is a Winkler, also made by Dynamis, but it's a combat flathead. So I've used this in the last couple books as well. Nice. So yeah, it's kind of prime. It's like the world's most expensive indestructible screwdriver. But yeah, right after September 11th, that was my 2 weeks into my second platoon or in my second deployment was September 11th. So we were in Guam at the time, and
phones start ringing up and down the hallways, and people start banging on doors, waking people up. And it's about midnight in Guam. That corresponded with the attacks on the East Coast. And we went down to the basement of the barracks, because that's where we had a TV. I went down there and we watched the Twin Towers fall on television, and then went to the Middle East soon thereafter. We thought we were going to Afghanistan, but we ended up going to Kuwait and doing the shipboardings that enforced the UN embargo on Iraq, the oil embargo. So those were originally being done by Team 3. Those guys went up into Afghanistan, and we took over their mission doing the shipboardings. And we all wanted to be in Afghanistan. We thought we were going to miss it. So in the fall of 2001, we're like, oh man, we got the shipboarding op, man. Those Team 3 guys got in there. They're getting after it. They're getting to do what we all trained up to do. And our job up to that point was to be prepared for war. And now war has found us, and now we're doing the shipboardings, which was cool yesterday, but not today. So we all wanted to get after it, and here we are now in 2021, and there was really no, we weren't going to miss it. It turns out.
It's been around for a long time. So you have other guys' lives pretty much in your hands, you know, and that carries a lot of pressure and weight upon you too. If something happened, I mean, how did you manage that, you know, your own feelings and also knowing that we have to do this and, you know, things will happen?
So I didn't worry about the things that I couldn't control, and it took a couple deployments to get to that stage, I think. So it really happened in Ramadi, 2005, 2006, and this is the time when IEDs, specifically EFPs, are coming across from Iran. They're really taking a toll on us, not just physically in the form of guys that are killed in action, but psychologically as well. And that all of my time, no matter what, was focused on being the best operator and best leader I could possibly be. And families, that takes a toll. But for us, for my wife and I, she's known what I wanted to do my whole life. And, you know, so we talked about it. Hey, that pendulum is going to be over here on the side of the team. Like, it has to be that way. That's what I owe the guys that I'm taking down range. That's what I owe their families. That's what I owe their kids, their wives, their parents. That's what I owe the mission. That's what I owe the country. So that pendulum's going to be over here. That's just how it is. It's not going to be over there forever. Like, we're going to get out one day. It's going to come swinging back here. But right now, it has to be here. But during those last couple of years, when I knew I was getting out, I'm not responsible for anybody's life anymore. I'm not taking guys down range. I'm taking this breath. I'm preparing for transition. So that's when I really started to think about the writing side of it. And I wrote down these 6, 7, 8 different ideas for the first novel, and chose the Terminal List, to go with, because I thought that was the most primal, most hard-hitting out of the gate. While I was in, I just knew that, hey, one day after this, I'm going to write books. I'm going to write the same kind of novels I loved growing up, by guys like Tom Clancy, Nelson DeMille, David Morrell, A.J. Quinnell, Jesse Pollack, Mark Olden, all these guys that I read in the 80s and 90s growing up. I knew that I was going to write those kind of books. But that's all the thought that I gave to it. But what I was doing for my whole life was giving myself an education in the art of storytelling by reading, by being a fan, by being a reader. And that was preparing me for my next, even though I didn't look at it that way, that was really preparing me for that transition and for being an author.
We don't really put that emphasis on the next chapter because we think it's never going to end, you know. And it's great because you're such a great example on, especially like towards the end of your career, to start focusing on things after. And you know, I've been involved, you know, with the NFL Legends Committee for so long as a transition deal. We try to help guys, and you know, it's very difficult because most guys can't see past what we're doing now, and we don't want to give it up. You know, this is something that we've always wanted, and the highs that we get, the highs that you get, and everything that we get, we never wanted to finish, to end. And that's why I think sometimes we kind of stay in it, and we don't leave it. You know, sometimes we try to like surround ourselves around it, you know, and sometimes that's hard, it's difficult, you know?
Yeah, that's why the acknowledgement piece is so important, to acknowledge that, hey, this is coming to an end, or it will come to an end at some point, and be able to articulate it and actually say it out loud. Hey, I'm not going to be a professional football player forever. Hey, I'm not going to be an Olympic downhill skier forever. Hey, I'm not going to be a Navy SEAL forever. It's always going to be a part of me. It's always going to have this foundation from playing football, or from being an Olympic athlete, or being a SEAL, or whatever it might be. I have this foundation from which to build.
I remember when I retired, I mean, I thought I can still play. I still wanted to play. And I got kind of pushed out because like I got injured. I tore my quad, and you know, you have some people saying, well, you know, yeah, because you're getting old. I'm like, wait a minute, I've been hurt my whole entire career. And it's difficult because sometimes you don't want to. And some people stay in it. I'm sure in your business as well, like a lot of, guys kind of stay in it in a contract, or they, for us, it's like either coaching or we do TV. We're still in it, and we don't separate ourselves because we still want to be a part, right? And that just shows like amazing strength for you to just say, hey, that was then, this is now. Yeah. And most people, I'm sure quite a few former team guys that struggle with it.
Yeah, we had guys that got out and drank themselves to death. Guys that came back in because they couldn't let it go. And a lot of guys try to recreate what they had or they expect in the private sector to find or to be able to create these same kind of feelings and emotions that they'd had in the SEAL teams, the same brotherhood, the same teamwork. Because when you go down range, you're not worried about changing a diaper or fixing a leaky roof or paying a bill. You're like downrange with your best friends to your right and left. You have a mission. Nothing else matters except that mission. And if you make a mistake, someone could die. But you're going to get hit. And people talk about all the time, get up and move forward. But also it's important the way you get up and move forward, because the way you get up and move forward after you're knocked down is going to impact everybody around you, how big your circle is, whether it's 1 person, 10 person, or if you're like a political figure or a celebrity, you have 20 million people in your circle. Like the way you get back up after you're knocked down can inspire all these people around you, or can do the exact opposite. So, and you get to make that choice, nobody else.
It almost like defined us, right? Who we are, right? Our identity, who we are. Like I'm Donnie Edwards, all-pro linebacker, and then when that's over, you start to lose your purpose. And like I used to wake up and work out and get ready and, had a schedule and everything was planned. We have mini camp, we have training camp, we have our games, and, it's just a cycle for 14 years. And then all of a sudden, it's over. And I take the uniform off and I just, who am I? And that was very difficult. I think we all go through it. And the highs that we got and just our purpose, and you start to think about why do I wake up?
Well, you found that mission with the Best Defense Foundation. You found this mission, this passion, and you have both there together. So I think you're fortunate in that you identified that. I don't know how long it took because you had that growing up, though. You had this respect for the military and all these, that was a part of you throughout your whole life, and you got to identify it, answer that calling, and you're doing this amazing thing now, going around and taking these guys back to these battlefields that, for the last time, taking them back to these places that they fought to give us the freedom, give you the choice to play football, give me the choice to do some push-ups in the sand in Coronado, California.
Golly, because you've been on the highest level, and then all of a sudden, you're starting all over again. And I tell guys this all the time. It's like, when you transition to your next career, you're a rookie again. Yeah. So remember when you're a rookie and all the extra work that you did, you carried the shoulder pads of the veterans? You got to take that same mentality as you move forward with your next career.
It's that humility aspect and realizing that, hey, on the outside, maybe no one cares what you did. And it doesn't matter anyway, because you're a new guy again. And you're going to take out that garbage. You're going to paint the wall. You're going to all the new guy stuff that you're going to do. You're going to change the light bulb. You're going to do all those things that new guys did in the teams. And you got to learn a new trade. Maybe you have to, but taking the lessons of your past, don't leave all those lessons behind. Apply them going forward. Remember what it was like to be the rookie. Remember what it was like to be the new guy. Remember what it was like to learn lessons on the battlefield and then apply them to the next mission. Same thing in life. You can keep doing that. It's a constant game of adaptation and learning. I'm still exploring these feelings, exploring these emotions, but in a positive way. So even if it was something negative that happened, I'm turning that into a positive by making these books more authentic and more real, because all of those emotions come from a real experience, a real place. Mm-hmm. And I think that really, especially today, that really resonates with the readership.
So The Devil's Hand came out April 13th. You got to be excited about it. This is your 4th book.
This one takes place mostly in the continental United States, and I wrote most of this on lockdown for COVID. So it wasn't an option to go flying around the world. So for this one, I went to Kamchatka, Russia, just south of Siberia for Savage Sun. Wanted to see what the taiga was like they call it the tundra, and what do they eat over there? What are some of the stories for some of the people over there and all that sort of thing. And for True Believer, I went to South Africa and to Mozambique and put boots on the ground over there and helped train up an anti-poaching unit in South Africa that was switching over to Glocks and M4s. And so I got to help them out, but I learned way more from them than they did from me. And so this time I'm doing an author's note at the end to talk about what the reader has just gone through here in these throughout the narrative. What was fiction, what was fact, what was blend, what were some whispers of truth in there. So I explain all that at the end in the author's note, and I think that's what made it a little longer than some of these other ones. But you can also use it as a doorstop or a weapon. Blunt impact weapon. Yeah.
No, it's really great. I mean, just to get more in depth with James Reese. I mean, we know him now. You know what I mean? We know exactly what he drinks and what he likes. I mean, you're so specific on on weapons and things, and just really, I know this guy. I can hang out with this guy. When you start geeking out with some of the details and specific of things, I know a lot of your books, you talk about the finer points of weapons and knives and just everything, which is really cool. And I know some people love it, people that are in the, in the industry, they love it. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. And there's other people who don't get it. And I see some of the comments people say oh, why do you got to get so specific? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
I don't care what kind of a gun it is.
Yeah, why is that important?
Yeah. Well, for me, it all tells a story. So when I see what you're wearing, what shoes you have on, your belt, what pistol you have on, what watch, all that stuff tells me a story. Like these shoes, the Dynamis belt, my pistol right here, what kind of a pistol it is, what kind of a holster it's in, whether it's leather, whether it's Kydex, whether it's a Striker Fire modern pistol or 1911 style with it's carried cocked and locked, or where's your knife? Is it in the appendix or is it right here?
Right.
Do you have two, one for opening things and one for fighting? All that stuff tells me something about you. My character drinks Black Rifle coffee with a little honey and cream mixed in, because most protagonists in this genre, they drink their coffee black, but I like my coffee with a little honey and cream, so hence my protagonist does as well. 'Cause I think it's important to to humanize him a little bit, make him relatable, especially coming from the background that he has.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who's read your books, they know about this vehicle here, which is pretty badass.
They do. It's pretty cool. The Land Cruisers have a nice, a really strong little cult following.
Yeah.
So
So
that's kind of fun to be able to tap into that. You gotta punch it right here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You ever think about this, that this was even possible, Because you think about it, you want it to happen, but there's no guarantees.
Yeah, no guarantees. And I always, same thing with SEAL teams, same thing with anything else, but I always, my little tagline is, never pay attention to the odds. And it's not really a tagline, it's what I thought of my whole life. Because growing up as a kid, when people tried to discourage you from something, I'd be like, well, why? Well, that guy did it. It can be done.
Right.
Why not me? Just got to put in the work to get there. Once again, no guarantee, even if you put in the work, that you're going to get there. But what is guarantee? If you don't, you won't.
Right.
I can tell you that.
Exactly.
So yeah, my whole life I've always wanted to just defy those odds, not pay attention to them. If you pay attention to them, okay, that's why I want to do these things. That's why I want to be a SEAL, because it's so hard, because we have 80% attrition. And that's the draw. And so you just take that, file it away, and then all the rest of bandwidth now goes into training for the SEAL teams, even in high school, even in junior high. I'm sprinting the hill outside my house, because back then you had a couple magazines and a couple articles here and there, and a couple of VHS tapes that showed some guys doing some things in Vietnam or whatever, and they were great. And I devoured all that stuff, and I saw, okay, they're climbing ropes. So what do? I put a rope up in the backyard. Yeah, I see these guys doing pull-ups. Okay, what do? We have a play structure in the backyard. I'm doing pull-ups there. We had a basketball hoop in the under the basketball hoop, not the hoop part, but the other part that attaches it. I'm pulling myself through, and I probably weighed 60 pounds, but I'm pulling myself through with different things. I on the roof, shooting my bow down at angles, as I'm sprinting, trying to lower my heart rate and doing all that. So I'm trying to do everything I possibly can that I think is going to make me a better operator one day, or increase my chances of making it, or whatever. So it's all that bandwidth, point being, didn't go towards, oh, this is really hard.
Right.
This is really hard. This is really hard. Well,
where did that come from?
Those 3 or 4 seconds, I just wasted them. I could have spent those 3 or 4 seconds reading something that's going to make me a better operator or a better person, or doing a push-up or doing a sprint or whatever it is, all that. So you get to decide how you're going to allocate your bandwidth, and that's not just for the SEAL teams. That's anything in life.
I'm Jack Carr, and this is Service, Sacrifice, and Freedom Through My Eyes.